Uli Hoeneß, he is delusional, but to be honest, guys, he's kind of right. I hate to say it, but Uli Hoeneß is kind of right. What am I talking about? Uli Hoeneß, basically top dog at Bayern, head of the supervisory board at Bayern. Basically, all decisions go through Uli Hoeneß. He came out yesterday, went on a German talk show, and had a lot of things to say about the German national team, about Bayern. And my first take on it is that he's delusional. He's an angry old man in charge at Bayern. He's angry about things changing in this world, yada, yada, yada. But to be honest, he's right. He's right. I don't know how else to say it. Uli Hoeneß is delusional, but he's most likely right about everything he's saying at the moment. And we're going to go through everything. Mia San Mia has all the key quotes loaded up on Twitter. So shout out to the guys that run Mia San Mia. Literally best page, on Twitter for sure. But let's get into it. There's a lot of tweets to cover, and I'm going to talk about all of them. So starting off with this one about Germany's defeat to Slovakia, we'll focus on the Bayern ones. I won't really delve too deep into the ones about the national team. But basically, he went on this talk show a couple hours before the Germany-Northern Ireland game. But speaking on the national team's defeat to Slovakia and whether Julian Nagelsmann is the right coach, he says, "We all know things didn't go so well against Slovakia, but I'd rather lose the first one than lose the important ones later. Of course, he, Nagelsmann, is still the right one. We shouldn't throw everything after one game. I'm convinced we will play better tonight. We should talk more about football in Germany and not only transfers. If we do that, then we'll play better." Now, if you can tell from the final sentence of this statement, transfers is on old Uli Hoeneß's mind. On that withering brain of his, it's all about transfers. And to be honest, when we get into the stuff he says about transfers later on in the quotes, you can tell he's a little salty. But the reality is, with Uli Hoeneß's statements on transfers and the transfer market today, the amount of spending being done, he is right. So we'll get into that. But you could already tell this man is talking about transfers. But I fully agree with him. We shouldn't sack Nagelsmann after one game. I'm convinced that we'll play better in the future too, and do better in the next World Cup qualifying matches. So he's right about this. Like, he is going against the reactionary. He's going against the reactionary sentiment of most football fans. You guys, even after that, even after the what is it called? Even after the loss to Slovakia, I was being so reactionary. I was being extremely reactionary. So he's showing you that life experience. Like, he's just telling you, calm down, little bros. We're going to be fine. Anyway, he continues talking about Nagelsmann. Uli Hoeneß criticizes Nagelsmann for making a lot of changes. I'm a bit old-fashioned. Today's coaches change so much. We never play with the same lineup. They also switch things around a lot during the game. For example, from a back four to a back three. I don't understand that at all. Now, I don't really agree with Uli Hoeneß here about changing formations and stuff game to big game, especially in World Cup qualifying. But I do agree with Uli Hoeneß's sentiment that too many personnel changes are made, at least in the starting 11. Julian Nagelsmann really, during these international breaks coming up to the World Cup, the next 9-10 months, he should be nailing down his starting 11 and letting them get comfortable with each other. And this is a mistake Hansi Flick was a victim of. He was not allowing a proper starting 11, a starting base for the team, get comfortable for each other, and they just seemed like strangers at times on the pitch when things got tough. So I do agree with old man Uli here about his sentiment that things change too much in the national team setups, not just for Germany, but in general for national teams. People are too reactionary, too much tinkering, too much changing is done, at least the starting 11. Now, I think in the overall squad, if you're choosing a 23, 26-man squad, go for it. People on the bench, guys just to warm bench seats and stuff like that, it's fine. But when it comes to the starting 11, I do agree with Uli Hoeneß here. Speaking on the women's team, don't give a shit. Hoeneß on sagging Erik ten Hag, I don't give a shit. He does feel a little bad for Ten Hag. He says they changed half the team over the summer. I have to say I was surprised they dismissed the coach after 2 match days. They might have had to consider that well. I don't know. You could tell, bro, he's enjoying the Leverkusen downfall, though. He doesn't give a shit. Uli Hoeneß loves this Leverkusen downfall, just like everyone else. I'm loving the Leverkusen downfall. Uli Hoeneß, and this is where we get to the Nico Jackson stuff. This is where we get to the meat of what we're going to talk about today. Uli Hoeneß reveals that Nicolas Jackson and his agent took over 3 million of the loan fee. Bayern only had to pay 13.5 million euros instead of 16.5 million euros. He continues. Hoeneß also reveals that the option to buy becomes mandatory if Nicolas Jackson starts 40 games for Bayern. Hoeneß says Jackson, will never do that. And we get to the longer quote, and this is, one of the big quotes of the day we're going to go over. He says, "We are very satisfied at FC Bayern. We are the real winners of the summer transfer window." Really, brother? Bro saw what Liverpool did and said we're the winners of the transfer window. Anyway, we're the real winners of the transfer window. We have a strong team and didn't need to strengthen it much. Of course, we would have liked Florian Wirtz, but we'd never have bought him for 150 million euros. I agree. Really, I agree. We offered 55 for Nick Woltemade, while Stuttgart wanted 75. In the end, he went to this guy with dementia, bro. He said Nottingham instead of Newcastle. In the end, he went to Newcastle for 90 million. What Newcastle are doing has nothing to do with football. It's like Monopoly these days. Now, this is where I think a lot of Bayern fans are getting frustrated with Uli Hoeneß, because he's basically coming out and saying, I don't think he truly believes we were the real winners of the summer transfer window. I mean, Liverpool all the winners. Our transfer window really wasn't that bad when you take into account the goals of the club. One of our big goals this summer was to, 1, get rid of dead weight, and 2, reduce that wage bill. We achieved both of those this summer while still bringing in Nico Jackson, Jonathan Tah, Luis Diaz, and Tom Bischoff. So it's really not an awful summer for Bayern. In fact, this might in the future become an underrated summer window, in all honesty. But it had potential to be so much better, especially given the players out there that were available during the summer. That's why I think FC Bayern fans are really frustrated. That's why I think he's very frustrated. But that's where I think Uli Hoeneß's perspective is coming from. He sees we brought in 3 strong players and 1 iffy player. I don't know about Nicolas Jackson. And we reduced that wage bill. He is the head of the supervisory board. Uli Hoeneß loves that. He set that target for Eberl. He has to be happy with it. We have a strong team, which I agree. But the reason why Bayern fans like me and others on YouTube, but others around the world, are frustrated is we don't think our squad depth is there. We have a strong team and didn't need to strengthen it much. Of course, we would have liked to buy Florian Wirtz for 150 million, and we wanted to buy Nick Woltemade for 55 million. Now, this is where I think Bayern fans are frustrated, because through a lot of people's eyes, they think we need to spend these crazy amounts of money for these players. And in the beginning of the window, I was that way. I thought, just spend whatever money you want on Wirtz. Just give whatever, at least match what Stuttgart are expecting for Nick Woltemade. Just spend the money and get these players in. However, my mindset changed, because I was thinking about the amount of money you're getting for the players that we're talking about here. Florian Wirtz for 150 million. Now, he's had a rough start at Liverpool. Just scored a free kick for Germany. He's not a 150 million player. And that's not to say Wirtz sucks. I don't even think, realistically, there are only probably 5 players in the world I would say are worth more than 100 million. Worth more than 100 million euros. There's probably only 5 or 6 players I would put in that category. Wirtz, his price tag is, 1, the result of Leverkusen's high asking price, and 2, the result of player transfer inflation. That's what it is. And I'm glad we stuck our grounds, and apparently we weren't willing to spend more than 110, 120 on Florian Wirtz. Cool. I respect that. And for Nick Woltemade, 55 million. And you guys, my opinion on Nick Woltemade is changing because his performances for Germany these last 2 games were awful. He's been awful. And I knew this guy wasn't a 70 million pound player. At most, he was 50, 55 million, which is what Bayern was willing to offer. But Newcastle went and bought him for 90 million. And I made that video 2 weeks ago when the deal went through, telling you guys how crazy that is. Telling you how Nick Woltemade, I rate him, but he is nowhere near being a 90 million euro player. I already came out and expressed my opinion on this, and I'm only being proved right, especially after these 2 games Nick Woltemade had for the national team. It's looking like Newcastle got swindled big time by VfB Stuttgart. So, listen, people are frustrated with Uli Hoeneß for the reasons I outlined, and people might think he's delusional, and we'll get to a point where I think Uli Hoeneß is wrong, but realistically, man, he is right. The prices for these players is ridiculous. And I know people will argue, oh, well, that's just how things are. Times are changing. Bayern is going to have to spend this amount of money to be able to keep up with the rest of Europe. And sure, that may be true, but not now. We're still in a transition period where Bayern can still continue to thrive off good scouting and loan signings or whatever with the current squad we have. But I do suspect that in the future, in 10 years, we will have to start forking out lots of money for the players that we want to get when the rest of Europe is ready to spend ridiculous amounts of money on them. It's either that or Bayern in the future becomes an impeccable scouting machine and scouts the best talents before they become 100 million plus euro players. So Uli Hoeneß isn't necessarily wrong here. And he goes on about Jackson, and we're going to get to the Jackson stuff now. It's not a 16.5 million loan fee because the player and his agent are contributing 3 million. So that leaves 13.5 million. Good math, Uli Hoeneß. It's nice to see your brain can still do simple subtraction. And there would definitely not be a permanent contract. This is the big news. That will only happen if he plays 40 games from the start. Jackson, will never do that. This is where I think Uli Hoeneß, why are you saying this? Why, Uli? Why are you coming out here and saying stuff like this? This is one of those moments with Uli Hoeneß. And to be honest, guys, this is how I know a lot of Bayern fans are post-2020 fans, because people don't seem to understand that Uli Hoeneß has always been this way. He will never shy away from giving his true opinion, which honestly is one of the reasons I massively respect Uli Hoeneß, outside of him being a Bayern legend and a guy who's shaped the modern success at Bayern. One of the big reasons why I also respect him is because he's never afraid to speak his mind. However, this is just one of those cases throughout the years where Uli Hoeneß, it's better to just shut up. It's better to just tape that mouth shut and go climb into your house away from sunlight, away from the media, and read a book. Touch grass. Why are you saying this? Nicolas Jackson is a guy we brought in this summer to bolster the squad. We know, I'm sure Uli Hoeneß knows of the struggles Nicolas Jackson has had at Chelsea the last year, the disrespect, the on and off form, the toxicity he's faced from Premier League fans, from Chelsea fans. And now he's probably super happy to come to Bayern, where it's a much kinder environment, still very high standards, some of the high standards in the world, but a much kinder environment, a much kinder fan base. I'm sure Nicolas Jackson was ready to go, happy, but when the top dog at Bayern, basically if what Elon Musk is to Tesla, what Mark Zuckerberg is to Meta Facebook, that's what Uli Hoeneß is to Bayern right now. And when that guy comes out and says he will never play 40 games from the start, I don't want to know what Jackson is thinking. A guy who is already low on confidence. I don't want to know what he's thinking. It must not feel good for Jackson. Now, here's where the title of my video is, Uli is delusional, but he's right. I think he's delusional for saying this. I think he's completely out of place. This helps nobody. This helps nobody at Bayern by saying something like this. but he's right. Now, it's like one of those things where you're right, but you didn't have to say it. This is one of those moments. He is right, but you didn't have to say it. Nicolas Jackson was never going to start 40 games for Bayern this season. And if he came with that expectation on this loan deal, he would have been completely delusional. His agent would have been selling him pipe dreams. Nicolas Jackson was never going to come to Bayern this season and start 40 games. So he's right, but you coming out and saying it makes the public believe that you think Nicolas Jackson just isn't a good player and that he shouldn't be at the club anyway. That's where the disconnect is with what Uli Hoeneß is saying and what I believe should be said or what I believe is right or wrong. There's a disconnect. And Uli has always been this way. Uli Hoeneß has always been this way. It's just one of these moments, bro. Just shut up. Now, I understand if he says this during winter break, right? And Nicolas Jackson has started horribly at Bayern. Cool. Just adding, kicking a dog while it's down. But the dog just came from England. He's happy. He's healthy. He's ready to start life in a new family. And it's like you're telling the dog, oh no, we're planning to send you back to the pound after 1 year. Come on, Uli. That does nobody any good. Really. And the reason why he's wrong here, because imagine if Nicolas Jackson comes to the club and he does play great. He's actually fulfilling the potential that everyone saw in him at Villarreal. All of a sudden now, he's a player that we'd probably want to buy on a permanent deal. But what if that's the case and Nicolas Jackson and his agent remember these statements from Uli Hoeneß? What if that gets in the way of getting a deal done? So you see what I mean? This doesn't help anyone at the club, top to bottom, and it helps nobody in the future as well. Hoeneß continues to say, and this is where I also think he's delusional, we must not forget that there's still a transfer window in January. Cool. So at least he's opening the door to people coming in January. We would have enough money for that. We're also getting 3 quote-unquote new signings for free in November with Jamal Musiala, Alphonso Davies, and Hiroki Ito. There's also young players who have to play. Now, he's right about this. We need youngsters that will step up and play games, a.k.a. a guy like Lenny G, Lennart Karl. And yes, Musiala, Alphonso Davies, and Hiroki Ito coming back to the team will be a huge boost to the squad depth. But I'm mainly looking at Alphonso Davies and Hiroki Ito here. Musiala return in November is way too soon. The minimum I want, the earliest I would want to see Jamal Musiala back after such a gruesome injury is next year, January, February of next year. In no way, shape, or form do I want to see Musiala playing football for Bayern in November. No way. July, August, September, October, November, just 5 months after that leg break. No. Just give him till January 2026 next year to come back. So this is alarming to me because maybe he's being told in the club that Musiala will be ready for November. I really hope the doctors are not on agreement on that. I really hope the doctors give him more time than that because this is a whole other conversation in itself. If we try to rush back Jamal Musiala, that's the last thing we should do. But anyway, him saying that these are 3 new signings, no, they're not, bro. Alphonso Davies has been here since 2018. Musiala's been here since 2020. Hiroki Ito, yes, he had a tough first season last year with his injuries, so Hiroki Ito would feel like a new signing. But bro, this doesn't matter. This still doesn't negate the point that we needed to bring 2 or 3 extra players in this team to strengthen upon a fully fit squad where Musiala, Davies, and Hiroki Ito are fit. There's a disconnect there. We still needed more players, even if all these players were not injured. He says some stuff. Him and Lothar Matthäus are just beefing again. I just don't know. I don't even want to cover that. Uli Hoeneß on the 50+1. Uli Hoeneß supports 50+1 and says the club's members don't want investors at the club. Cool. That's great to hear. It should stay that way. He's speaking on Lennart Karl. He's a great player. He's only 17. It's impossible without a coach. Company has promised us that he will bring a few young players over the course of the season. That's great to hear. because that was a complaint for a lot of Bayern fans last year with Company is give the youngsters more chances. Why aren't you giving youngsters more chances? So I'm sure a lot of people who are complaining about that are happy, especially that pussy crybaby FC Bayern Talente on X, who deactivated, by the way, after people trolled him so much about his obsession with youth minor players. Uli Hoeneß on rumors of a potential Max Eberl departure. These are rumors and speculation. At the supervisory board, we have no problem at all with Max Eberl. Of course, we had discussions, but a separation was never a topic. Is he thinking about resigning? You have to ask him that. Max has had a tough time recently, mainly due to the pressure put on him from the outside. Listen, this is just wild to me. The last part. You have to, okay, first it's good to see that him and Eberl apparently still have a relationship. That's great. But this last sentence is so delusional. This is where he's not right. You have to ask him that. Max has had a tough time recently, mainly due to the pressure put on him from the outside. Now, by all means, yes, there's pressure on the outside on Max Eberl, but anyone with Max Eberl's position at Bayern would have pressure on them from the outside. What was the real limiting external factor that made Max Eberl's job much more difficult this summer, especially in the second half of the summer transfer window? It was you, Uli. You are the one that made things goddamn impossible for him. You're the one with 2-3 weeks left in the transfer window who advised him you could only sign players on loan. You can't sign players for a transfer fee. Only loan players. You're the one that made his life difficult. You're the one that placed limitations. No, you placed limitations, high expectations, and pressure on him. You're the biggest culprit here, Uli. This is what I don't understand. You're the one that severely limited Max Eberl's ability to get deals done. Because I'm telling you right now, Bayern fans, if Uli Hoeneß does not give Max Eberl that loan handicap, I guarantee you we get Ademola Lookman done. I guarantee you that a move for Jamie Simmons becomes much more likely. Two quality players like that become very more likely to come to Bayern if there isn't this whole loan bullshit limitation set onto Max Eberl. And who was that set by? Who was one of the leading voices of this, apparently, of this idea? Uli Hoeneß himself, the man you see on your screen. So this is just crazy for me. This is just crazy to me. You are the guy that made his job difficult. You are the guy that it just makes no sense. You know what I mean? Like, he's right, but he's also delusional. Like, he is right about a lot of the things he said in his appearance at this talk show, but he also said some batshit delusional things. Uli, man, you're killing me. You're killing me. Uli Hoeneß, I have a feeling that our coach, Christoph Freund, and Max Eberl are working well together. Cool. I don't give a shit. They should be. Uli Hoeneß on the supervisory board supposedly making Max Eberl's job difficult. Here we go. A tough job certainly leads to arguments. Karl-Heinz Rummenigge and I... oopsies. Sorry. Karl-Heinz Rummenigge and I often argued, but afterwards things were always fine. Max is a bit more sensitive in that regard. Bro, Uli Hoeneß airing out their dirty laundry, saying Max Eberl is a little pussy bitch. Karl-Heinz Rummenigge and I often argued, but afterwards things were fine. Max is a bit more sensitive in that regard. One thing is clear. Making transfers at the end of August is never a good idea and always expensive. I also gave Max this advice. It's better to make the transfers in June and July when other clubs haven't really started yet. In the last 2 to 3 weeks, things become difficult. But you see where I disagree with this, Uli? This whole philosophy of the one to make transfers is correct. But in this summer transfer window specifically, this is where I disagree, because we had the ability to buy Ademola Lookman if we were looking to buy him for 40 to 50 million euro. For a player like that, a player like Ademola Lookman, his age, he's in his prime, the goal-scoring ability, 40 to 50 million euros would have been an absolute steal for Bayern. But because you put the loan limitation on Max Eberl could only approach Atalanta with a loan option, with a loan offer this summer with an option to buy next summer. And they were never going to accept that. They made it clear that they were only looking for permanent transfers. And in the end, the deal did not get done. So cool, your whole transfer philosophy, Uli, I get it, but bro, it doesn't have to apply every summer. You can make expectations. This could have been a summer where you just made when you made an exception. Sorry, that's the word I meant to say. This could have been a summer where you just make an exception at the end of the summer transfer window and allow Max Eberl to get the Adamalo Lookman done deal. The Adamalo Lookman deal done. Jeez, I can't speak. Because he's a quality player, and the price tag on him was very cheap for a guy of his quality. Don't care about all this. And on his loan policy, there are different opinions. Max would have liked to buy, so we know Eberl was trying to buy players. He was trying to be serious. But we, the supervisory board, have to pay attention to our financial situation. That's as important as sporting success. He goes on to roast Barcelona. You have Barcelona as the best example of what happens when you only buy, and then end up with debts of 1.2 billion and can't do anything. See, I like the cautiousness from Uli. I like the business mindset, always looking forward, but it doesn't apply to us in this day and age. I'm sorry. Who are you fooling, Uli? We are one of the biggest clubs in the world with the most well-run finances, money coming in from everywhere. We have some of the most popular jerseys on the planet. High viewership, high fan attendance, high merchandise sales. What are you talking about, Uli? We have money. We have a lot of money. Don't act as if we're broke. Why are you making it seem like we're broke? Why? Why are you making it seem like we're broke? We're not broke. And the Barcelona thing, cool, nice little jab there at Barcelona. How does spending 50 million, 40, 50 million, for example, on an Adamalo Lookman, let's just stick to that topic, that example. How does spending that 40, 50 million euros to secure the signature of Adamalo Lookman from Atalanta similar to the buy that a Barcelona did in the last 10 years that put them in that kind of debt? It's not the same thing at all. If we went out there and signed an Adamalo Lookman for 45 million, we're fine. We have tons of money. And I know I'm not on the supervisory board. I'm just a fan. But you guys, just look at the paper trail. Look at the money trail. Look at how much money we make. Look at our fan attendance. Look at our merchandise sales across all top teams in Europe. Look at our popularity throughout the world. The money we get from Champions League. The money we get from TV deals. We have money. We have it. But Uli wants to always make us seem like we're broke. Come on, man. Just because we buy, I just don't like. Did Barcelona, what happened at Barcelona, make this guy like some senile, pessimistic? I don't know. I just don't see how the Barcelona situation even compares in the slightest to what Bayern's situation is right now, which is nowhere near the Barcelona situation. I just don't get it. I don't get how he's drawing this conclusion. Says he doesn't want to retire. Listen, at the end of the day, I'll end it off here. I've been yapping for too long, almost 30 minutes. Hoeneß asked whether he just doesn't want to let go and retire for good. He says that he would like to enjoy his retirement, but if something isn't going well, then he feels he has to interfere. Now listen, man. The frustrations with Uli, I have massive respect for him. He's a club legend. I still think he has a lot to give to this club. He has so much experience at the top level of football for all these decades and decades and decades. He has a lot to give the club still. And he obviously cares. He obviously cares about the club. But sometimes you have to own up to your questionable decisions when you make questionable decisions. I think Uli Hoeneß is one of these guys that will never admit he's wrong, especially this summer, it seems like. But I do think he's wrong in some of these statements here. Now, is he mostly right about the transfer fees, how you should approach a summer transfer window, being money conscious? Yes, he is right. But those things just didn't really apply to Bayern this summer. This could have been a summer where we just let some cash go on some players to strengthen the team. Why? Because we're seeing Bayern fans. You guys, we're seeing with this Vincent Company ball every weekend. We're getting better and better and better. And we can win the Champions League. We just want the team to be strong enough to do so, deep enough to do so. And Uli Hoeneß just didn't see it that way this summer, along with Karl-Heinz Rummenigge. So, listen, he loves the club. Dude, he's this old, still putting himself in these high-pressure situations and dealing with one of the biggest sporting institutions in the world. I respect it, Uli. But at least sometimes admit when you're wrong, bro. At least get with the times a little bit. We can't always be stuck in our ways. We have to adapt because soon we might be left behind. We might be left behind. So, yeah, that's all I really want to talk about with Uli Hoeneß. Some other stuff he's talking about, blah, 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 links to other things. Yeah, Uli, you're a legend, bro. But some of the things you said were delusional yesterday in your talk show. But the thing is, I could think it's delusional or not. A lot of his general statements on money on transfers, like I just said, how you should approach your summer transfer window, the strength of our team, blah, 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 blah. He is right. Like the money on Voltemata, the money on Wirtz, he is right. The stuff about Jackson, oh, he's never going to start 40 games for Bayern. He is right. But for example, that Nico Jackson thing, like I said, that's just one of those cases where things are better left unsaid. You didn't have to say that because something like that doesn't do anyone at the club any good now or in the future. So it is what it is. It's been your boy Hokage. Uli, respect to you, blood, but let's get a little real. You're right. You are right. You got that old man wisdom, but you're also sometimes wrong. And it would be nice if you just admitted it sometimes, Uli. From man to man. I just realized I wasn't even wearing my hat the whole video. But it is what it is. It's been your boy Hokage. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.